Welcome back to the Sampan Viking on China channel. With many tumultuous events taking place throughout the world, Afghanistan and protests around the Asia-Pacific region, it's very easy to be caught up in the excitement of it all and to lose sight of some important elements of context. And it's context really that I would like to talk about today. And I think I'd sum it up in one simple slogan, which is the West's retreat from reason. And what I mean by that is been over the last few decades, certainly noticeably in my lifetime, a distinct fundamental change in the way that we are presented information, presented facts, and invited to think about them. It's often referred to as dumbing down, and that is certainly, I think, a very, very valid description. But again, that's a little bit general. And I think what we actually have in so many reasons is a very deliberate, very cynical ploy to redirect the attention and the thinking of people for the benefits for whom opinion making is their business, which is the our political media industrial class. So, what I mean by the retreat from reason is really the abandonment of a position of reason and rationality when looking at any given situation. Almost it is as though rationalism, reason, are dirty words. A Victorian leftover, the glorious age of rationalism, the Victorian age, and as unwelcome in the modern age as the concept of sending small boys up chimneys. And this is a really worrying development. And it's been coming on over many, many years. I mean, a simple, silly example, a cartoon strip that I used to love when I was a little boy, about 8 years old. It was in the Daily Mirror. It was called The Perishers. And the kind of jokes that they had there would now go completely over the heads, I think, of today's population. They have lost the ability, they've lost the breadth and the critical ability to understand references and to understand slightly more complex jokes than what seems to be the norm today. Now, instead, today we are encouraged to feel. And that means to have an emotional reaction rather than a rational reaction, which is exactly 180 degrees from the age of reason. This is the age of feelings, the age of emotion, the age of empathy, so called. And what this means is that we are presented with an image on the news, an event, and we are told how to think. So if it's something we don't like, here it is. Oh, isn't it bad? This is who's responsible. Another image. Oh, isn't it bad? Here's who we think is responsible. Another image. Oh, isn't it bad? Same people again, responsible. And so over a period of time, you almost get a deep-seated emotional reaction to regard any news from that particular source as bad. And all news presented from that source is given in a negative context, presented as bad. And that all you have to do is feel bad. If they tell you something is bad, they show you something which looks bad, they tell you it's all very bad, you will feel bad. And every time you hear the name, you will feel bad about it. Well, this is classic. This could be China, this could be Russia, this could be Iran, this could be any nation that is not perceived as being a friend of Western values. And there's a bigger problem with it as well, because you look at a situation and you feel, you look at a similar situation and you feel, and what you realize is that you are being spoon-fed very small compartmentalized images. And what you lose when you no longer rationalize, what you are no longer able to conceive, when you can no longer rationalize, is the big picture. And this is all that is essential for critical thinking. You cannot join the dots. You cannot see uh, how a situation has come into being, how it progressed, where it is likely to go, and why. So instead, you simply have a series of emotive responses to events that our leaders tell us are bad. This is not a very healthy situation for any society, let alone one that prides itself as being an advanced society. Simply being at the whims and mercies of emotion is lunacy, in my opinion. If any people in a complex modern world that is so interconnected, that is so global, where there are so many people, often very different in different parts of the world. And all we do is react emotionally to that otherness, to that difference. We are heading down a very dark and potentially very sinister path indeed. And it's certainly not a world I want to be in, I can assure you. We have to learn that people do things differently in other parts of the world, and it is neither good and it is neither bad, that nobody holds a monopoly on virtue, and everybody can learn from each other. And in that way, if we do progress in that direction, we can start to accentuate, accentuate the similarities that we have, start to harmonize those similarities, and not worry quite so much about the differences. We all like to put on a certain face when we're in public. We like to be ourselves when we are at home, and maybe this is how cultures and civilizations should behave as well, with a common set of public faces, and then in the privacy of our own society, do things in a slightly way, a bit more homely and a bit more comfortable. Well, why is it, do you think, that we are being led in this direction? Why are we being discouraged from rationality, discouraged from reason, and instead being force-fed sentiment, sanctimony, and of course superstition as well? Because it is no mistake that the rise of the evangelical fundamentalist Christian movements in the West have an awful lot to do with this as well. And we've seen this in Hong Kong, leading the protests there. It again, purely emotional responses. I've been to, out of curiosity, a few years ago, I went to an evangelical church service just to see what it was like, as somebody brought up, but not practicing, as Church of England. And, at least the Church of England had degrees of theology in its service. There was nothing here. It was all hallelujah, hallelujah, get your wallet out. Emotional appeal, emotional response. No reason, theological or scientific. Uh, Deeply disturbing, and this seems to be the way that it goes. And of course, that emotional response is comes down to like or dislike. And so being told something is bad, you don't like it. Being told something is good, you like it. So instead of thinking about things, instead of rationally analyzing a situation, you go with that emotional response of something you like or something you don't like. And why would people do that to us? Why would we be taken down there? Well, I think for the West, it's very, very simple. It reflects the values of those who are indeed leading us. And I've heard that the West is now technically a plutocracy. And I have to say I agree with it. We are led increasingly by the interests, by the wants, by the likes of a small number of multi-billionaires. And what they want and what they like is what we have to put up with. And they get away with it by making the reaction of what we want and what we like the normal reaction to any situation, which of course is very, very different in other parts of the world, and specifically China, which has sort of come out from a more very conservative and superstitious form of society in the from the late Qing, and has moved under the Chinese Communist Party into something which is led by science and reason and rationalism, and results in the deeply analytical nature of its policies, and the the long-term planning that affords, and all very pragmatic as well, in staunch, stark contrast to what we have in the West. And it never used to be that way. 100 years ago, it was the exact polar opposites. Both sides have switched. And obviously, the trick is to have both sides on the same page at the same time, preferably both rational, because if both sides were being emotive, my God, it would be World War III tomorrow. So we need to move towards rationality. And I think China recognizes that we in the West are ruled by the whims of billionaires. China can see that, they can see where it leads, which is why they have the crackdown on business. Capital is not allowed to dominate. It is the political party that rules. The politicians in office are the politicians in power, and they are the ones that rule and govern, and not simply cat's paws or shills for other interests. And I think you can see the difference in the societies and the outcomes that that produces. So that is the retreat from reason, and the retreat into emotive responses pulled on us, so manipulated against us by the whims of multi-billionaires, all to do with them satisfying their latest whim, desire, and avarice, for want of a better word. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope that this video managed to provoke some thoughts. If you liked, please hit the like button. If you don't subscribe already, please do. Please hit the subscribe function. It's free to do, and will keep you informed of further releases. Hit the bell, which will notify you when these releases come out. If you would like other people to see the video, press share. If you would like to ask a question, or simply express an opinion, please comment. I'll be only too happy to respond where appropriate as best I can. Until the next time, thank you very much. I look forward to you joining me on the next video.